Go good for some Carly?
Yes.
Alright. Let's do some use of time scenarios for Carly prep. Alright, here's how it happens. The in is the round. That's the round. Before then we have prep. And I was the one who took Patrick Henry College into EDA Carly, and so we got to form all of our rules for how we run prep. And I still run most Carly preps the same way. There's a general rule, and then our particular rules. Because what is so great about Carly, nothing ever goes according to plan, does it? And that's life. In life, you need to be constantly adapting. And the idea that you get to perfectly plan everything and tinker with it is like a 1960s mentality towards engineering and manufacturing. You live in the 21st century, the information age. Adaptation is the name of the game. That's why Carly is the best. Okay, so the resolution drops right here. That's where it starts. So we're interested in the 15 minutes or so between. You and your partner are two different people. Prime Minister is going to be blue. Oh, I erased some giant green thing. I meant to talk about it before I erased it. Put that later. Your partner, MG. What you want to do is be together, separate, together, separate, together, separate. Because what you don't want to do is have two brains thinking at the speed of one. You want your prep time to be 30 minutes of prep time, or as close to it as possible, not 15 minutes of prep time. And when you limit each other's thinking, you slow down your own prep. You can cut it completely in half. And that's dangerous. So, what we're talking about, interestingly, is it has a mirror to it in corporate thinking, which is this. Brainstorming is proven to be generally ineffective at coming up with ideas when it's in a group. Because when you brainstorm in a group, people are nice. The first person who says something, everybody else is like, oh yeah, that sounds good, and you go down that route. The first person who says something, all our minds lock into that first concept, and it limits how we think. Because we think concretely, so we find the first tangible thing, and then go off from that. And then we also end up with authoritarian issues of, oh, you're better, you're the CEO, you're the this or the that, and hierarchy, which can exist in Carly teams as well. Limit the ability of brainstorming to have its full impact. And so what they've shown is that the best way to brainstorm in a business is to do individual brainstorming and then put it together. And so that's how I do it in my company. We'll say, first 10 minutes, everybody make up your own list. And then let's have a session where we just go off of our lists. Now we don't have to be concerned about, is mine the same as his, or did he have a different thing, or was it good or was it bad? And you end up with more ideas, but then you end up with what they call a collision. Idea collision is where combinations of ideas form to spawn even more ideas. That's the effect you're trying to create. So, first rule of thumb. A minute of silence. If you want, you can make it 45 seconds, 30 seconds, but a minute's pretty good. A minute of silence. And in that minute, nobody limits each other's thinking. Resolution drops, and you each come up with as many ideas as you can. Idea. So that then, after that minute, you brief each other. Now here's how you can mistakenly brief each other. Briefing. Here are all the reasons why I think that this and this and this and this. That'll go on forever. Blah, 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 blah. We have to learn to be factual. Here are the cases that I thought of. This, and that. I'm not justifying, unjustifying. I'm listening to you now. Here are the cases I came up with. This, and this. Okay. Let's choose one. Mackenzie, you said you like to do limited prep. How important is it to quickly choose from 3 topics?
It's very, very important.
Should you second guess yourself after you've chosen?
No,
You can't. You need to learn to make a choice, be decisive, and go. That's what we have to do here. It's a limited prep event. So you compare cases. You might halfway through your prep decide, man, I wish we had chosen immigration instead of ISIS. Too bad. You chose ISIS. You stick with your choice and develop it over the rest of it. Am I making sense? Okay, then you split it up. This is the part that a lot of harder teams struggle with because they want to be affirmed or validated or something like that, and they talk to each other. That's not Plan A. Plan A is, all right, if that's our case, then it probably has what most cases have. Definitions and interpretation, weighting mechanism or value, and a couple points. I don't know. You can come up with the names of those immediately. All right, I'm going to take the definitions and interpretation section. Will you please take contention 1, named this? Split up. And off they go. MG, contention 1, PM, insert. Definitions. And then you come back together. Do it, come back together, and this person transfers their knowledge to that person. Why does the transference go from MG to PM?
Because the PM is going to have to make, he's going to be the one introducing it all. The MG is going to learn what the PM is going to say when he gives his speech. But the PM needs to know what the member of government has.
Correct. So the MG is sharing their knowledge with the PM, but the MG has no idea all of the points that PM is going to make until the round begins. So whatever this and this and this and this were from the PM, MG learns about it in the round. We do not want to walk in there with the same sheets of paper, which brings up an interesting point. For both GABA and APA, you walk into the round and this person holds a bunch of sheets of paper. As we complete Plan A, you'll see why this person might have some, but they're never for the first speech. You don't want to walk into the round where both partners have prepared the same case. Do you see already what a waste of time that would be? 2 people spending 15 minutes, limited prep, writing the same thing down, but only one of them is going to speak from it? That makes no sense. It's worse than that, though. How often do you perfectly deliver every plan you've ever come up with? The MG in the round is going to have the only real record of what happened in the round. So if the MG walks in here with the outline of your speech, but halfway through the Prime Minister's speech, you realize you're running low on time and you're going to have to skip some stuff. Only the MG knows what the judge heard because you don't have time to write it as a PM. You adapt it on the spot like you should, but you skipped things and you're not sure what you skipped or didn't skip. They're the one who actually hears and processes what the audience is processing. Do not walk in. And that's why in policy debate, I say the same thing. 2As don't pre-flow the 1AC. You need to hear how it was presented that particular round, how the pauses worked, how the inflections worked, because audiences hear different things based on the timing of how words come out of mouth, based on the sibling or the child of the judge in the round who made a noise and they shushed them. That changes everything. You can't pretend that debate is a script activity and a script exchange. It is a verbal activity, and so you need to always be listening. Okay, so when we go, come back together, the exchange happens to where the Prime Minister feels like they understand this point. Prime Minister is not explaining vice versa. And they split up again. Okay, MG, I need you to now build, I'm running behind, so I need you to build a plan. Roughly do it like this. Okay, you build a plan. Now I'm going to build contention 2. Come back together, here's the plan. Okay, great. Do you need me for anything else, says MG. No, I think I've got it. I'm going to do the weighting mechanism, pretty good on the cases, Prime Minister. So now MG says, all right, what are the weakest points? They have two options. What are the weakest points of our entire strategy? And I can prepare responses for where we'll probably be targeted. So if topicality is going to be where we're probably targeted, I'm going to come up with 5 reasons why our interpretation is great. If contention 2 is going to be the issue, or solvent is going to be the issue, I start coming up with all these prepared responses that when I listen to negative speak, I'm going to put on to negative speaking. That's one thing I can do. Second thing I can do, this is, we're still in plan A. Prime Minister says, I just need more facts and information. I'm going to keep writing the case. Can you just go Google stuff for me? And then you Google things and you write on sticky notes pieces of information that can go to the Prime Minister for completing some of the points that they've already made. That's sort of plan A modified. Then, if you've done well, here you work on being funny. Clever, funny. Tomorrow we'll work on some figures of speech and you'll see exactly how to do this, so I'm just going to gloss over it now, but the best parley debaters are entertaining. They're not just debate bots. You have to actually plan to be entertaining. Haikus, poetry, funny song lyrics, funny articles, interesting stories, like Marty the tuna that got trapped between San Francisco and Japan for 20,000 miles of journey so that we can see the migratory patterns of the tuna, which helps us understand why methyl mercury from China and Japan is in our food supply. It's a pretty cool story. Just find that on a news article, and then you can tell the judge, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Interesting is entertaining. Hitler is not entertaining. The judge already knows that. And then you walk through the runner and you execute. Any questions about this overall plan A? Okay, so let's add a team. There are 4 parley debaters, and you're prepping together. The Prime Ministers prep together, and the MGs prep together. So they may copy each other's stuff. As this team prepares contention 1, they're both drawing from their own historical knowledge and factual knowledge and helping flesh out the contention together. So these 2 Prime Ministers end up with roughly the same thing. Prime Ministers, same. Now, the Prime Ministers, here's a rabbit hole that should not go down. If the Prime Minister right here says, you know, I think we should interpret it this way, and the other Prime Minister says, I think we should interpret it that way, just move on. Some debate teams get just too tied around the axle about which is the right way to do it. Who cares? Should your mandate be this way or that way? I don't know, just keep moving. It's not the most important thing. So you can agree to disagree even while you're prepping, because guess who you're not debating? The people you're prepping with. So it don't matter. In a college prep room, what actually happens is you usually get a whole classroom for a school, and you end up with a bunch of whiteboards on it, and so what you'll have is the resolution will drop, and then coaches like me, we will take some section of a whiteboard and we'll write a huge position on it. But there'll be 4 coaches writing huge positions all over these different whiteboards. And the teams decide if they like it or not, and they take it down if they want to, or they do their own thing if they don't. So it's okay to have different plans. It's perfectly fine. Okay, now let's take the whole club. The whole club decides to prep together. Typically a bad idea, because too many voices slow you down. Having one team that you really gel with, that's typically the best thing. But if you're going to do it as a club, then I always say have an open walkout policy. So usually you'll have this like sort of together thing, and if everybody is doing the same case, stay for a while. But once you feel like you are confident in what it is that you're doing, move away. Go to another room and complete the case by yourself. If really early on you say, they're doing immigration, we should do ISIS. Just leave. And so coaches, what I'm doing when I'm helping prep is I'm always like, are you ready to leave yet? You guys are ready to leave. You need to leave. Because at some point they have to make it their own, because they can't be you. And And so we're not trying to live vicariously through the students. They'll never do good at that. They have to own their own information. So that's a continuation of Plan A in some of these different scenarios. Any questions? Use Farley time. Okay, let's cover Plan B. Plan B is, the resolution is Maslow's hierarchy of needs ought to be reconstructed. And you and your partner go, what's the hierarchy again? In a case where neither of you have any clue, then it is an emergency. So in an emergency, Prime Minister preps each point as we go, and they have to make the whole case themselves. Insert plan, advantage 1, advantage 2. While MG is doing all kinds of things and informing that person. Starting with calls, Google, and Obrees. So we had my partner and I in college. I had 20 partners. One of my favorite partners and I in college had a standard plan for who's what. If it's a foreign policy topic, it's me. If it's a philosophical topic, it's him. If it's a constitutional topic, it's him. If it's a economics topic, it's me. And we had a couple of others, like music and art. And we just kind of knew where our strengths were. There were a few gaps that we had. Anytime it was a gap, my partner was Prime Minister, and I'm an info collector. And I usually call my dad, because my dad's an expert in a lot of things. Or somebody like that. And so I would call, spew information, we'd get an idea at least, and be able to run with it. And sometimes you get enough of an idea from a call that you can start to Google along those lines and get some good information, and you'll have something to go on. So that's Plan B. And questions? Yeah.
All of them's probably perfect.
15 minutes plus the time to walk to the furthest room. And if you're a literalist judge like me, you start the timer the moment prep time is up. Just dilly-dallying around, setting up, shaking hands, and degree stuff. It's a timed event, it's prep time. You don't come to an extemporum and then talk for a little while, read your papers here, and it's time. Any other questions about this part of prep time? All right, so let's flip it to op. Op works roughly the same way. Well, there's one interesting difference. The leader of opposition, 1 and C, and the member of opposition. Oh, I sort of left out a pretty important thing. Right here, speaker positions. Do not save who is going to speak first and second for 10 minutes in, because you need to be prepping under the gun if I'm speaking first, if you're first. You will make much better decisions. If you're both like, I'm not sure yet who's going to speak first, no way, yes.
Why did you have contentions in one and advantages in the other?
Because, yeah, do what you want. I just like contentions, by the way. Usually I have points. Points are nice. Okay, so speaker positions always need to be determined by here at the latest. If you determine them before they're out, okay, but here at the latest. I usually have a default. So like when I'm op, I'm default leader. leader of opposition, but depending on topics, my partner sometimes is leader of opposition. That can be on the basis of skill, or it can be on the basis of knowledge, or interest, or how you feel at that time. You're sick. All kinds of reasons. You have to be flexible. So then, the leader of opposition, the goal is to walk into this round with 6 to 12 sheets of paper. So you have to be good at flowing to prep off very well. Now I'm going to tell you what most teams do, both gov and off. Huge mistake. They prep like this. They scroll across, like they're giving a speech. But we are participating in a... We have to flow. You don't want to write the same thing twice. You prep in flow. And what's funny is I say this, and then 80% of debaters the very next round don't. And I wander around the room and I make them. Because for some reason this just goes in one ear and out the other. You need to spend all of your prep energy efficiently. Meaning you have to prepare like you intend to debate on the same sheet of paper. You gotta write down what they're going to say to it. You know what your partner says, and then what you say. That's an important part of debate. So you cannot waste your time by prepping this way. Then your sheets of paper. Let me see if I have any. I prep loosely. Hardway is much easier for prepping loosely. There's one. Yeah, I just had a round on Wednesday where I had 9 sheets of paper, but I threw them all away. I'm prepping all these in this much space. But here's the thing, is most of you, because of LDR team policy, you're used to fitting the entirety of a case on one sheet of paper. That's problematic for several reasons. The first reason that is problematic is because it prohibits this exchange of paper that needs to occur between you and your partner. You need to be able to speak from your partner's notes. So your partner has to make nice little labels, points, and numbers, and you have to be able to integrate it into your overall speaking outline. So if you jam your entire case on one, what if the partner's point fits in between 2 of yours? So usually you want to reserve 1 sheet of paper for one concept. Advantage 1, harm 1, the plan, interpretation, weighing mechanism. Sometimes that might mean you're only taking up that much of your sheet of paper. Doesn't matter. The paper is the concept. And it really actually helps you in a round really well. Because it's an outline. It's pre-done for you. It's extremely difficult to get disorganized in the way that's common to LDM team policy, where it's like, where are you at this time? When you have one paper, one type of argument. And you get really comprehensive about it. And you say, I'm going to address the weighing mechanism, contention 1, plan, advantage 1, advantage 2. That's your roadmap. It's already there. When you're done with it, you set it aside. You're done with that. Weighing mechanism's done. Now let's go to advantage 1. So it actually keeps things a lot more clear than you would expect. So we have to, when I say walking in with 6 to 12 pieces of paper, what's that another way of saying? Well, how many arguments do you walk into around? 6 to 12. Bingo. So you walk in with 6 to 12, I like to call them positions, because a position might have an A, a B, a C inside of it. Usually has a name, and it's got some facts and warrants on it. So we're prepping positions here. So we're going to do the same thing. But this time, typically your MO never stops helping the LOC. So, because you're the 4th speech in the round, you don't even know what's going to happen in the round enough to really predict how to back up your partner yet. So you usually spend most of your time, you don't know what Alpha is going to do, helping the LOC be ready for all different kinds of permutations of what could happen. So you spend all your time helping that LOC have the 6 to 12 sheets of paper. Then when you're in the round, how many of those sheets of paper, on average, do you think get used?
3.
2. 2 is your typical. You're going to maybe use a disadvantage and probably a counterclaim. You're going to maybe use a counter value in an interpretation. The rest, if you're debating, is what? Which we call on case. The majority of your debating in a round is still on case. These 6 to 12 positions are primarily off case. Some of them may apply on case, which is brilliant. So if you've predicted something that they're going to say, hooray, you've got responses already lined up, but you need to communicate it to the judge, not as off case anymore, but as on case. However, that, maybe you do, maybe you don't. The LOC walks in and you've got 5, 6, 7 different negative strategies you could use. You choose one negative strategy, the arguments that only go with that one. Shove all the other pieces of paper aside, they are a complete waste now. You don't need them. Just be okay with that. Listen, think, and respond to their speech. So you end up debating on 4 or 5 sheets of paper total, even though you brought 6 to 12 into the round. Because you filled up some blank ones in the round with their points, and then you responded. Was that too confusing? So I think in Barley, you plow through paper. What we would always do is we just buy a couple of reams of legal-size printing paper, because the flow pads are too expensive. I mean, you just fly through the paper. You use lots of it. This is how you should plan on running your Barley prep time.